Every March in Texas gun shops, the place turns into a circus. Tax money hits, red tags go up, and guys start signing 4.47s on guns I've already watched choke, print, or rust. I stand there thinking, yep, that one lives in the safe by July. I've burned March money on pistols that looked tactical and felt wrong the second I carried them. After enough of those hits, I started running every 9mm through one rule. If it has ever made me hesitate in a class, in a parking lot, or halfway through a long day, it's out. No debate. What survives that rule is a short list that has already eaten junk ammo, lived in rough holsters, ridden through long days, and outlasted my worst moods. Somewhere in here, a boring gun has saved me from more dumb purchases than any flashy new release, and one hyped favorite has already failed the March test. At the end sits a March-only buying rule that has saved me hundreds and kept friends from signing for the wrong gun. I used to walk past the Canik row like it had training wheels bolted on. March would roll around, tax money in pockets, red tags everywhere, and I'd still treat that rival like the discount toy in the corner. If I was spending serious money, it wasn't going on a Canik. Then one March, a regular at my range walked in with a bone stock TP9 SFX rival and flat out embarrassed me on a simple drill. Same targets, same distance, same timer, same cheap ammo. My trusted pistol felt like work. His rival stayed flat, the dot bounced and settled, and his hits stacked in the A zone while I chased mine. When I ran his gun, my times dropped and my excuses evaporated. The first session with my own rival, I waited for the catch. One gritty mag release, one weird piece of brass, one ugly pattern so I could say, see, that's why it's cheap. It never showed up. It has eaten trash ammo, stayed flat through long strings, and kept running filthy in classes where pricier guns coughed. For the shooter who cares more about performance than logo flex, that experience has turned the rival into a no-brainer March pick. If a carry gun makes me adjust my shirt more than I adjust my sights, it's fired. That line finally hit me back around Christmas. Driving home with my side chewed raw and that little 9mm digging into my rib cage. The gun worked on paper. It just never shut up on my body. When the Hellcat Pro stopped being another compact on the shelf and turned into a test, I grabbed one, not because Springfield posters sold me, but because I was tired of building my day around a pistol that hated being carried. On the line, the Hellcat Pro felt like somebody shrunk a real duty gun instead of stretching a pocket pistol. Full grip, clean sight picture, recoil that stayed honest when I pushed speed. It still had to live with me. It is ridden in the truck, under a t-shirt, through long days where I forget it's there until I take the holster off. The texture I thought would be too much has just kept the gun where it belongs. So when March money shows up and I think about what actually rides on my belt, there's no debate. The noisy little gun sits in the safe. The Hellcat Pro gets the gas station shift. Earlier this winter, the range looked like a bad decision. Wind cutting sideways, mud swallowing brass, target soaked. People pretending they were having fun. I brought guns I liked too much to grind into the dirt. And the Ruger RXM was what I threw on the bench as the if it dies pistol. Once the weather started chewing on everything, the RXM stayed in my hands. Optics fogged on other guns. Slides felt slow. Ammo got weird. The Ruger just kept taking full mags of wet, cheap stuff and snapping back to the same spot. You know the day your fingers hurt, your hoodie's soaked, and you're sending rounds anyway? That's where this thing lived. At one point, I dragged it out of the mud and ran a string, convinced this was where it coughed. It didn't. Brass came out clean, hits stayed where I called them, and the gun looked at me like, "Well, that all you've got?" So when refund season rolls around and guys line up asking for a 9mm, they can beat up in trucks, rain, and busted ranges. That muddy RXM is the one I point at. If they want something that lives on their belt instead of in the storm, that's a different conversation. After watching one more comment war about the SIG P365 X-Macro, I got tired of hearing people who'd never worn it argue like it ruined or saved their life. I quit scrolling, grabbed mine, and decided it belonged on my belt instead of on a screen. First thing I noticed, it didn't match either side. It shot flatter than the haters admit, but it never felt like some magic laser gun the fanboys pretend it is. It just put rounds where I called them and stayed controllable when I pushed speed. The grip sits right in that annoying middle zone on paper, but under a hoodie, it rode cleaner than half the smaller guns I'd been babying. Then I dragged it through a real class. Draws, movement, one-hand work, reloads, awkward positions on gravel. The big internet complaint was height and printing, so I spent the day focused on that. Holster and clothing mattered way more than the gun. By the last drill, I wasn't thinking about it at all. So when guys show up with 20 hot takes and one empty holster, this is the pistol. I tell them actually shut everybody up for me. It earned its spot without asking for attention. Last fall, my buddy laid his safe out on the table. Not for show, for sacrifice. Bills, a new project, the usual story, and everything in front of me suddenly had a price tag. Glocks, CZs, a couple of tricked-out striker guns that already had their 15 minutes. Sitting in the middle was his Walther PDP SF Match. That gun has been glued to his hands at every class and match we've shot together. When he's burning down a stage or punching tiny groups at 25, that's the pistol doing the work. So I pointed straight at it and said, I'll take that one. He didn't even look up, just laughed and slid it off the for sale side of the table. Anything but that. That gun pays the bills, he said. He'd rather dump 3 other pistols and keep the one that actually wins him days on the clock. That stuck with me. Specs are cheap. Watching a friend refuse to put a number on a gun after thousands of rounds is what matters. When extra money hits and a shooter tells me they want one pistol that'll still be earning its place years from now, I don't talk plastic. I point at the SF Match and ask if they're actually ready to keep up with it. Lately, I don't trust the glass case. Too many pistols shine under those lights until somebody honest speaks up. A few weeks ago, I walked into a Fort Worth shop I respect to look at a Taurus GX4 carry. Their armorer has been behind that counter longer than some brands. While he's checking in a crate, he mutters, "Half the models coming in lately aren't passing my basic checks." No drama, no pitch. That line landed right on the 4 in my hand. From that moment, it wasn't a cheap Taurus, it was a test piece. I started shopping with my hands instead of my eyes. Slides, lockup, trigger prep, a couple of guns with double the price tag, had just enough slop to make me set them down. The GX4 carry felt tighter than it had any right to at that number, and he didn't roll his eyes at it. That mattered more than any spec sheet. On my own checklist since then, dry fire, mag swaps, slow groups, pushed pace, it still hasn't given me the cheap gun excuse I've been waiting for. If that armorer's line sits in your head and your money lives in this lane, GX4 carry is one of the few I say out loud without flinching. The pistol after this one doesn't care what your wallet thinks. February turned into highways, gas station coffee, and new ranges. I had one pistol riding with me, but every time I hit a different town, one name kept creeping into my head. Glock 19 Gen 5. First stop, rental wall was a circus of brands and colors, and one beat-to-death Glock 19 with half the finish missing. Next range, different state, same story. Rows of strangers, one rental, Glock 19, Gen 5, with mags that looked like they'd bounced off concrete. By the third place, it stopped being a coincidence and started feeling like the default setting of the handgun world. At one range, my own pistol stayed in the case, thanks to local rules. So I finally grabbed their house 19. Grip tape peeling, sights basic, trigger strictly fine. And it still stacked rounds exactly where I called them. Drill after drill. With ammo I didn't choose. In a lane I didn't know. Back home at the safe, all the other pistols suddenly felt optional. If my life keeps bouncing between zip codes, this is the gun I'd be stupid to pretend I don't trust. The one after this doesn't care about blending in. It shows up when things feel heavier. For a long time, my safe looked like bad math. One compact that carried fine, but sucked with a light, one fun range gun with no real holster, one full size I kept meaning to set up for the house. 3 pistols, none of them actually covering the whole job. How many guns in your safe are like that? You half-finished ideas you pretend are a plan. The FN509. Tactical is where that nonsense stopped. I set it up once with a real weapon light, a dot, and big mags. And it quietly did everything I kept pretending 3 guns were doing. On the range, it has soaked up full-power defensive ammo, stayed controllable when I push the pace, and run clean in drills that make the cute stuff feel like toys. At the nightstand, it fills my hand in the dark in a way the little guns never did. So when somebody says they've got room in the budget for one serious 9mm, I don't hand them a menu. I point at the 509 Tactical and tell them that's where the grown-up money went in my world. It's not what I grab for grocery runs or long days out of the house, though. That job belongs to the next pistol, and it's a lot less forgiving about how you actually carry it. After I settled in with the Glock 19 Gen 5, I told myself that lane was closed. Holsters dialed, mags stacked, muscle memory baked in, then a CZP-10C showed up on a deal I couldn't walk past. It started as a let's just see gun. First range day, nothing dramatic on paper, but the sights land where my eyes already sit. The wall and brake feel like they've known me longer than the Glock. Recoil has a smooth shove, and I call shots without thinking. I go home still talking, like the Glock is the main pistol, but the splinter is in. Over the next weeks, I catch myself cheating. Quick store run, range afternoon, long drive. My hand drifts to the P10C. Draw stroke feels cleaner. First rounds hit with less effort, and I leave calmer. One morning, I stare at the safe and ask, if I care about shooting my best, why am I reaching past the Glock? So if someone lives in Glock world and wants a second 9mm, that actually earns carry days, this is it. When a guy walks into the shop this month, already owning a 19-1 slot left in the budget, this is the one I point at. The only gun sitting higher, never had to steal time from anything. That HKU SP 9mm has been heavy in my head since the first mag. Earlier this month, I got a call from a dealer who actually moves HKS. No YouTube voice, just him staring at his order screen saying, USP 9S are getting weird. Lead times are all over. Reps aren't promising numbers. He said it once and moved on. I haven't. Since then, I've been watching cases like a vulture. One shop that always had a lonely USP 9mm in the corner, empty. Another has a single one with a tag that's higher than last year, and nobody promising a second. The used rack that used to cough up an HK every few months has been dry. I've seen this movie with other guns. First they get hard to find, then everyone suddenly pretends they always knew they were special. The thing that bothers me is I already know what this pistol is. USP 9mm has eaten real ammo, handled real drills, and never once made me doubt it when the vibes were bad outside. It's big, a little stubborn, and feels like a brick of insurance in your hand. If this really is the last easy month to grab a clean USP, are you gonna be the guy who bought one or the guy whining about prices next year? I'm not giving future me that excuse. So that circus counter in March looks different now. The same red tags hang, the same guys rush the paperwork, but you already know which guns on that wall have passed real life and which ones only exist inside marketing photos. My March rule stays stupid simple. If I can't point to a year of beat-up use, real classes, and ugly range days from people I trust, I don't touch it on a deal. I've walked away from more than one once-in-a-lifetime price because the track record wasn't there, and every time that choice has saved me money and headache. Drop the 19mm, was a no-brainer for March that I didn't touch. I'm Steve, and I've already paid the March stupid tax, so you don't have to.